All right, we've hit the top of the hour. Thank you very much, everyone, for coming today to learn about the Public Library Survey. All right, and we will get started. Okay, so welcome to the Public Library Survey overview for the 2024 data collection. For those of you who are newer to the Public Library Survey scene, this is a survey put out by IMLS. This is an annual survey, and it consists of both federal and state data elements. And only the public libraries get to enjoy this particular funness. Public Library Survey is often shortened to PLS, and it is sometimes referred to as the annual report, as seen in Century Code 54-24.2-06. This should not be confused with the annual report to the governing body that is required in 403809. Important dates, this will open February 1st. Yes, a Saturday. I don't expect anyone to fill it out on day one, but it will be open and available for you to start on February 1st, and it closes on March 31st. So you're able to put in data March 31st, but if you, wake up on April 1st, hoping to be able to put in a few last minute numbers, it will be no more. This year, especially since we have so many new data elements, I recommend starting early if you can. I know I'm a natural procrastinator, but again, I wouldn't save it to the end. The Public Library Survey is administered through Counting Opinions. If you aren't sure what your login is, or you don't have a login yet, or any sorts of occasions that have come up, please let me know. I can email you your credentials so that you can get in and fill out the survey. This year, especially since we have so many new people filling out the survey, I thought I'd go over the different sections so that you have a better idea of the areas where we're going to be collecting data. There's an identification section. This is, library name, contact information, things like that. Library governance, that's dealing with, the library board, policies you have, things like that. Branches and hours, this is only filled out if you have branches. Branches and hours, that's existence of branches and the hours the library is open. Bookmobiles, you only fill out if you have bookmobiles. Branches, you only fill out if you have branches. There's questions about paid staff, operating revenue, operating expenditures, capital revenue, and capital expenditures. We have questions about the library collection, holdings, and circulation. There is questions about online library resources, public service, so that would be where visits to the library, reference transactions fall. Programs, technology, and outreach and marketing. General tips and tricks, go through the survey once before filling it out. I highly recommend it even to the old hands this year because there were so many changes. Definitely save as you go along. There's nothing so heartbreaking as doing all of that hard work, leave for 5 minutes and, someone knocks water, onto your computer and suddenly all of the data is lost. So definitely save. Print a copy for your files, or, save a copy somehow. It can help with filling it out the next year. Submit when you are finished. There's usually a few every year who are completely done with the survey and forget to hit submit. So don't forget that very important step. make notes. There are actually two places for notes. If you click on the question number, that is a place for procedural notes. So if you're like me and you never remember, you know, whether, this is a number you find yourself or a number you get from someone else, you can add a procedural note and say, this number comes from the state library. You can find this number here. That can be very helpful, and those notes stick from year to year. And then there's a notepad that's closer to the answer entry form, and that's for explanatory notes. So that's where you put your edit checks. More tips and tricks. Click on the question number for the question definition. Last year's numbers appear next to the box, so it can be helpful to use as a guide. Enter 0 if the answer is 0 or none. And if you don't know the answer, enter -1. So if you know you have 0 bookmobiles, enter 0. But let's say you had, 20 programs, for kids 0 to 5, but the dog ate your attendance sheet. You can put -1 under, for the attendance for the programs, and that just lets the IMLS know that the data exists, you just don't know what the number is. For the new yes, no, or missing questions, please choose one of the options, either yes, no, or missing. If you do not, that will trigger an edit check on my end, and it will, just cause big headaches for everyone. So choose one option. If a box is grayed out, that means that it is pre-filled and cannot be changed by the library. This is usually address, population. And as a note, we do use the numbers from the decennial census. So we are still using the population numbers from 2020, which was when the last census was. So if, it's looking different than what you think it should be, it's because we're using the census numbers. Okay, edit checks. These are the annoying things that keep you from submitting your data. So they are triggered if the answer is 0, if it's the exact same as last year, if it's very different from last year, or if the relationship between two answers doesn't make sense. So an example of this that the McLean-Mercer regional libraries are pretty familiar with. So you report that you have, all of these ebooks, e-audio, things like that, but you report 0 circulation because MMRL reports the circulation for that. So that's why you always, that edit check triggered. It's because the relationship doesn't make sense. Edit checks need to be addressed before you are able to submit your survey. And even though it can be very tempting to just, write because that's the way it is, if you can provide me some context, it is very helpful to me later on down the line, because I do use your edit check notes to address the edit checks that I receive later. Of late, the most challenging questions still seem to be in the programming area. So with program counts, programming by age range, report all attendees of the program regardless of their age. So for example, you have a program aimed at 0 to 5-year-olds, and there are 10 attendees, 4 in the expected age range, 2 older siblings, and 4 adults. So you report one program with 10 attendees. So when should you report as general programming? I you know, if it doesn't fit neatly into one of the age ranges, is generally so things for the whole family, younger kids reading to the elderly. I think that, a good opportunity for general programming. But if you're ever not sure, reach out to me. We can talk it through. And the total programs by age needs to equal the total programs by location. And if it doesn't, edit checks galore. Just let me tell you that. So there are libraries who handle the look of the questions in this section differently. I wasn't able to get it organized, for this year's data collection, but I should be able to work with Counting Opinions to make it easier to make sure that these two totals equal each other. And just a quick note of synchronous versus asynchronous. Synchronous means it's happening right here, right now. It doesn't matter if, it's a virtual program or not, but synchronous, if people can either attend live or watch it live, it is synchronous. Asynchronous means people can engage with the content whenever they want. So that would be the passive programs or, recordings, things of that nature. Okay, now the really exciting part, the part you all really came here for. We're going to be talking about the changes. There are a lot of them this year. We're going to start off by talking about the deletions. So feel free to celebrate all of the things you no longer collect. So we are no longer collecting the number of ebooks, e-audiobooks, or e-video. So you do not need to keep track of the number of those items that you have access to. Question 7.11, circulation of children's materials is gone, but it has been replaced with a new question called circulation of children's physical materials. So I'm not sure why they chose a deletion and replace instead of an edit, but we'll talk more about the new children's material circulation question in a minute. 7.17 and 7.18, these are no longer on the survey, but they will auto-calculate in the PLS portal. So that information will still be there in the final PLS documents on the IMLS website, but you won't see them in Counting Opinions. Questions 8.1 through 8.6 dealing with the number of OLRs, those will no longer be asked. And we also will not be counting successful retrievals of electronic information. And to cap off the excitement, we will no longer be collecting website visits. Edits, occasionally the IMLS will look at the questions being asked and, decide that they could, be a bit more clear about what they want. So there are 5 that had edits this year. The first 2 are related. For electronic content expenditures, the definition was updated to remove outdated and tangible digital media. So they took out things like floppy disks and CD-ROMs. And the things that were removed from electronic content expenditures were added to other physical materials. Reference transactions also saw a definition update, just trying to further clarify what counts as a reference transaction. And then a total number of asynchronous program presentations and total views within 30 days. Those were also updated to provide clarification about what is an asynchronous program and what should count as attendance. All right, so the new questions. A few definitions that might prove helpful. So the ebooks, e-audio, and e-video are, I think you're all fairly used to the definitions. E-serial, think of a good example of the e-serial, look is the magazines in Overdrive, because they're an exact version of the magazine, like you could get it off the newsstand. But say the newspaper OLRs, those would not count as an e-serial because you couldn't flick through the pages like you could the actual copy. You can find individual articles, but you can't read the paper. A research OLR, that would be an organized collection of electronic data or records that can be searched to retrieve information. So that's EBSCO, Gale, the capstone resources, most of those. And then the online learning platform provides instruction tools and resources to enhance education, lifelong learning, and skill building. So that's like Mango Languages, Universal Class, Niche Academy. Those are online learning platforms. Okay. New questions. The first new one, automatic renewal of physical material. So that's asking if when a patron's loan comes to the end, does your integrated library system just automatically renew it without the patron coming in and saying, hey, I would like to renew this item. So if you are automatically renewing items at the end of the loan life, you can mark yes. If you're not, you can mark no. If you still have absolutely no idea what that means, you can go ahead and mark M if you want, or you can give me a call and I can help you figure out whether you're a yes or no. The next couple are dealing with who is buying the electronic resources. So I did do some articles that in the Flickr tail that went over how I think you should answer those questions. And I did put quite a bit of thought into that, and I had conversation with the other state data coordinators. But if you think any of the guidance I gave in those articles was wrong, I am happy to go through them. And if any of you completely missed those articles, I'm happy to send them to you direct so that you have a better idea of what I'm talking about. But so providing access to electronic books purchased directly by the library. So that would be, if you're using your Advantage account in Libby to purchase books directly for your library. Or if you're purchasing ebooks from another vendor, then you could mark yes. Provided through a consortium if you are part of the Library to Go Overdrive Consortium, you'll be able to mark yes for that. If you're part of any other consortium that provides ebooks, you can mark yes. And again, if you are part of the Overdrive Consortium, you could mark yes to provided by the state library. Electronic serials. Again, if you are doing any direct purchasing at your library, you could mark yes. Provided by the state library, if you are part of the consortium, you could mark. Electronic audio. Again, if you're purchasing directly as the library, mark yes. If you're part of the Library to Go consortium, you can mark yes. And again, if you're part of the Library to Go consortium, you can mark yes for provided by state library. Electronic video, if you are doing anything on your own, mark yes. And then through consortium, mark no. To my knowledge, none of our consortiums are purchasing any streaming video at this moment. But if you're not sure, reach out to me. We can talk it through. And provided by the state library, you can mark yes. Research OLRs, if you are subscribing to any on your own, mark yes. If you're not sure if something you are subscribing to is a research OLR, reach out to me. We can talk it through. If your library is paying into the Minitex contract, mark yes. And if you are providing access to the state library website so that your patrons can, click on the OLRs on the state library website, you can mark yes for the third one. Providing access to online learning platforms. Again, if you're purchasing access to anything on your own, mark yes. For purchase directly by the library. Provided through consortium. I do not know that any of the Minitex contract databases qualify as an online learning platform. But if you have any questions about something you are purchasing as a consortium, whether it counts as an online learning platform, please reach out to me. We can talk it through. And if you are providing access to Universal Class or Mango languages, or again, just linking to the state library website so that your patrons can click on our OLRs, you can mark yes for the third one. We are collecting e-material circulation for ebooks, e-audio, e-video, and e-serials. A note: include only circulations for resources that require authentication and have a defined loan period. So based on my understanding of how e-serial circulation works in Libby, I do not believe those should be counted. Not because it doesn't require authentication, but because there isn't a defined loan period. If you're not sure about, whether you should be counting the circulation for a resource, let me know. We can talk it through. And finally, circulation of children's physical material. So this is circulation for all physical items, including kits. Okay, so I know there's bound to be questions as you're going through please contact me if you need help. I want to help you. I want, I don't want the PLS to be something that you dread every year. I want the process to be as smooth as possible. So please reach out to me. Yes, Maddie.
So sorry, can you go back just one slide?
Yeah,
To
absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
so resources that require authentication and have a defined loan period, but you like when you check things out through Libby, you do have to authenticate it with your card, and you do have the 14 or the 21-day period that
Yep.
is in there. So
Yep. It's just the
just
e-cereals.
the
I did
cereals.
some,
Oh my God, I
yep,
missed
just
that.
e-cereals.
Sorry.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. No, thanks for checking. Thanks for checking. Yes. We do have things up in the LibGuide now. And I'll be putting the recording of this up there as well. But the LibGuide's the place to go. So future changes, I would like to take, this moment to end on a high note. There will be no changes for next year's survey. It will be exactly the same as this year. So, hooray! Unfortunately, they decided to do no changes because they want to further research the changes that they are thinking of making for the survey after. So what they're looking at is getting more granular data collection at the outlet level. So what this means is it really wouldn't affect us in North Dakota that much because it would only affect libraries that have multiple branches. So if you have multiple branches, you might already be, reporting data for everything. But if you're not, know that you might be expected to report on all branch activity in the future, but that won't be voted on until this summer, I believe. So I will be keeping you apprised of future data element changes as I become aware of them, but know that when we're sitting here in 2026, it will be a very short presentation because it will be exactly the same. Okay, so now the floor is open for questions. And just because I'm paranoid that things are showing up in the chat and I can't see because my screen is shared, I am going to stop sharing my screen. This is my contact information if you don't already have it. And the slides will be up on the LibGuide, so you'll be able to check back through if you missed anything. And yes, Maddie, Odin databases fall under the OLRs. Odin, the databases that are through Odin are part of the Minitex contract. So Odin and Minitex for this purpose is the same. All right. Any other questions? Feel free to unmute or throw it in the chat, whatever is easiest. Okay, if there are no other questions, I'm here And we are going to do another Q&A at about the halfway point, so the end of February. So you can, bring questions there, or, call me anytime, shoot me an email. We're here to get it done. So I can let you guys have half hour of your day back. All right. Have a good day.